This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Friday, right after a quarter after 11 Central Time. It's a different time out in the Pacific time zone where our friend Aaron Torres joins us from the Aaron Torres Sports Podcast. And if you're not following Torres on Hogs on Twitter, then why are you even on Twitter anyway? Aaron, happy February, man. That means, you know what that means. That means we are going to be getting NCAA selection committee rankings sometime soon this month. We will be talking bubble teams and really mean something sometime soon, and the NCAA tournament is not that far off. So it is go time for college basketball, my friend.
Bill, I thought you were going to say February brings one thing, and that is Eric Musselman figuring out his team and Arkansas basketball peaking. I thought that's where you were going with that, Bill, and if you had said that, I would not have disagreed with you in one single bit. But nice win last night, or the other night, excuse me, I guess it was Tuesday or Wednesday. And I'm telling you, man, it's starting to feel like the last couple of years where Coach Muss doing Coach Muss stuff here in the middle to the end of February. I'm very curious to see these Hogs over the next couple of weeks.
Well, it feels like Arkansas has turned a corner, continue to play really well. Even the loss at Baylor, they played really well. A&M, I mean, well, I think what we're kind of looking for right now is still a signature victory. And A&M, the Texas A&M game can't be a signature victory. San Diego State can't be a signature victory. You're not going to get that against South Carolina. So you look tomorrow, South Carolina is like a must-win, don't lose, and then that's one thing they're missing right now. Like, they've got the ranking and everything. The net ranking. I mean, right now they'd be a tournament team. But no real signature win yet. They're going to get a chance at the end of the month, of course. And hopefully by then, it's like you're saying, they always are playing really well by the last week of February. So what have you seen in the last few games that makes you think that Arkansas has turned a corner?
Well, first of all, Phil, I think the most important thing is what you just said, kind of about the South Carolina game, but I think it's metaphorical for the entire, probably 3 or 4 weeks. They're winning the games they're supposed to. Obviously 3 straight SEC wins. And that Missouri game, it goes without saying, that was, literally maybe the worst officiated game I've ever seen. Probably should have been an Arkansas win. So, that's 4 straight wins. It doesn't count in the record books, but 4 straight games where you feel like you were the better team in the SEC. And then you have the Baylor game last week where they were the better team for large stretches. And so I think, first of all, the first step is just winning the games that you're supposed to. This time of year, especially to your point, Phil, when you don't have those signature wins, that matters. But then, two, on top of that, I just think it's much figuring things out, man. And listen, he said it, I forget which game it was after, but he said, he was like, you guys want answers, and he's like, I'm not making excuses. We're here to win every game. But we were entirely built around these 2 guys that are not available. And so, I don't think that can be understated in this conversation enough. It's really interesting, right? Like, Creighton right now is like the hottest team in college basketball. Well, they lost 6 games in a row because 4 of them they didn't have Ryan Kalkbrenner, and everything they do is built around Ryan Kalkbrenner. So I bring it up to say, I just think that, some years with Muss and some years with any coach, it takes a while to figure things out because you don't know the personnel, or you're young, or you're this, or you're that. But you have a season-ending injury, and then a lingering injury where you haven't quite figured out what's going on, and is he going to be back, is he not? That's a lot to overcome the 2 potential first-round picks. One last thought, Phil, and I'll throw it back to you guys. I have a buddy of mine, Jamie Christian, who was a NCAA tournament coach twice at Mount St. Mary's. He's working with us at AT Media this fall. And he said something very interesting to me the other day. He said, as a coach, and Matt, I'm sure you can attest to this, as a coach, you'd rather have a season-ending injury than a lingering injury, because the season-ending injury, at least okay, this guy's not coming back, we have to figure it out. Where you have the Nick Smith Jr. type situation where, could he be back? How long? Should we adjust? Do we have to plan without him? Should we plan with him? Blah, 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 this and that. So what I'm just saying is, you have this insanely talented group that's especially young, 11 new players, and then you take 2 guys that everything was built around offensively and defensively out of there, and then one guy may still come back. that's a lot for any coaching staff to deal with over the course of a 5-month season.
Yeah, it's pretty up and down. It's wild. I mean, everybody seems to think he's going to come back. It takes a while to get back into game shape, though. I mean, the kid's uber talented, top 10 pick, no question about it. And so you want him out there. It's tough. When you're looking at is it Tennessee and Bama in the SEC? And how much of this Purdue basketball team have you seen? Are they the clear number one team in the country right now?
So I don't think Purdue is a clear number one. They are deserving of being number one in the polls based on everything that they've done. But, they have this incredible center, Zach Edey, 7'4", and I think they're really talented around them. But they do have 2 freshman guards, and we know how freshmen kind of are in the NCAA tournament. It's just a lot to rely on those guys. So I don't think Purdue is the clear-cut number one. I'll take a step further. I think Alabama is the clear-cut number one in the SEC.
Yeah.
I'm not. Yeah, but I'm not sold on Tennessee, and shame on me because after the Texas game, so they played Texas in the Big 12 SEC Challenge. All year long, I said, I just don't know about that offense. They're taking care of business. They were beating the bottom of the SEC. They were beating the Ole Misses and the Mississippi States and the teams like that. But I said, I just don't know if I think they can create enough offense when they need to. And they look great against Texas, and I talked myself into, okay, maybe Tennessee is different this year. And then they laid an absolute egg at the O-Dome last week. And Florida isn't terrible, but it's also a spot where if you're a national championship contender, which they want to be, you go into that game and get a win. So, Matt, to answer your question, Purdue is deserving of being the number one team in the country, but I don't think there's some significant gap between them and a lot of other teams. And then in the SEC, I think Alabama, there is a gap between them and everybody else.
Yeah.
And I think, really, to me, what's interesting is Tennessee is probably the second-best team, but they've already lost to Kentucky. I don't think there's a sizable gap with A&M, with Arkansas, if they continue to play the way that they are. I think it'll be interesting to watch how this league unfolds over the next 5 weeks, especially as the really good teams start to play each other.
Yeah.
What did you take from Alabama just getting run off the court by Oklahoma? I mean, I watched that game, man, and it was start to finish. Oklahoma was physical. I don't think they intimidated Alabama or anything like that. They just were physical. They pushed them around and were the better team. I mean, it's not that they lost, because you don't expect Alabama or anybody to win every game from January through February and into March. It was the margin of victory. It was the way that it happened. And, I mean, so there is this clear separation between Alabama and everybody else in basketball this year in the SEC. They shouldn't go along with a 24-point loss on the road to, kind of an okay basketball team in Oklahoma.
It's funny, Phil. I'll tell you guys a quick kind of funny story. But, every week I go on with you guys. I go on in Tuscaloosa. I go on in College Station. You guys are my favorite, but that's neither here nor there. But I was on in College Station last week, and they were not part of the Big 12 SEC Challenge. And so I said to the host, it's kind of a bummer. It'd be fun to see A&M in an out-of-conference game. And he said, I actually feel the exact opposite. He's like, we're playing well in SEC play. Let's stay in that group. And so the way that I look at it, Phil, is, every team has kind of tangible goals, right? Win this many games, make the NCAA tournament, win the SEC regular season, win the SEC tournament title. And then you throw this weird, random road game into the middle of all that, and it's like, Alabama is still a team that probably 4 of their top 7 guys are freshmen. And so, you're working towards this goal of a number 1 seed, of winning the SEC regular season title. And then it's like, you got to go on the road now and play this team that you know nothing about. The game means more to them because they don't have a tournament resume right now. They're at home. It's a big game for them. I didn't really take much out of it. And, I'll give myself a little bit of credit because I just kind of said how wrong I was on Tennessee. Everybody did ask me on Saturday, Phil, what's the big takeaway? What went wrong for Alabama? And I said, I didn't think it's a one-off deal. If they lose to Vandy at home or if it's ugly, let's revisit this conversation on Tuesday, Wednesday when they play. And then, of course, they literally destroyed Vanderbilt in a way that no Alabama basketball team has ever beaten any team in SEC League play. So, listen, I think everybody's allowed a mulligan, especially, by the way, not that they're allowed a mulligan, but when you're playing at such a high level every single night, you're just not going to be great every single night. And so I don't worry all that much about that Oklahoma result. we'll see if Alabama can keep it going because, like everybody else, their schedule will get a little tougher here over these next couple weeks with a couple big games. But I just wasn't really that worried about Alabama after that game, and at least for one game, they kind of made me look smart.
There's one top 25 matchup in the SEC. That's Auburn at Tennessee. Any chance Auburn goes in there and gets a win on the road?
Yeah, Auburn's just the one that I'll say, and I mentioned kind of quote-unquote those top-tier teams. I really still, to this point, have no feel for them. And I'll give credit to Bruce Pearl. I mean, listen, look at, and I don't follow the NBA very closely, guys, but you guys are close to Houston. Jabari Smith is playing lights out as a rookie. By the way, Walker Kessler, who was part of that team last year, is playing lights out. And so, you lose those two guys, and you assume that there's going to be this natural drop-off, and there really hasn't been. Now, again, Auburn is the same as everybody else. They have to play, I think they play Alabama twice going forward. They play at Tennessee. They play at Rupp Arena, I believe. And obviously, Arkansas at some point as well. I think they still play Arkansas. I could be wrong on that. I know you guys played them earlier in the year in Auburn. I don't know what to make of them. They've largely taken care. Listen, it's what we talked about with Arkansas. It's what we talked about with Tennessee. They've largely taken care of what they're supposed to do against the teams that they're supposed to do it against. They protected their home court. Obviously, they had the loss to A&M, but that was an A&M team that is probably better than we're giving them credit for, and a game that A&M really needed to put themselves on the map. So I'll just say, that's one of the games I'll be watching very intensely, guys, tomorrow. But I just don't think I have a great feel for Auburn right now, and I'm curious to see those guards against an elite defense, right? The guards were the problem last year when they fell apart, and the guards we thought would be a problem this year. Well, now you're going on the road. You're playing an elite defensive team in Tennessee, and I'm curious to see how they handle that situation.
Got to ask about something that you've been tweeting about the last couple of days. Usually we would know or have a sense that North Carolina and Duke will be playing basketball on a Saturday night on ESPN. This is kind of coming up and just surprising me right now, looking at the ACC schedule, and they're both unranked. And it's like, so if there was this going thought that for a long time the ACC is the best conference in college basketball, and usually that's centered around North Carolina and around Duke. I mean, you could throw in Virginia too in the last few years, no doubt. But there's also no doubt right now that the best conference is the Big 12. And they've got, it's like almost every team there outside of Texas Tech is at least in consideration for the NCAA tournament. You can't say that about the ACC. Although Carolina and Duke, I mean, they probably would be in. It's just we're used to that game having a lot of buzz, and it doesn't at all.
No, 1,000%. And from the Carolina Duke perspective, I am blown away because even when the rivalry hasn't been great, I think ESPN has done a great job of creating, or even when the game itself hasn't had as much meaning, I feel like ESPN has always done a great job of building it up so we want to watch it. And I don't get the sense this year that they have. And maybe I've missed stuff and whatever. And part of it is the teams aren't as good. But I'm blown away by how little buzz there seems to be surrounding this game. And I think it speaks to neither of those teams is good right now. They're not bad, but they're not good. And I also think the other thing, too, is what you said about the ACC, Phil, is one of the more fascinating things to me in all of college basketball, is that for years this was the gold standard of college basketball. And it's not just Duke and UNC. I actually think the problem with the ACC is that those second-tier teams that you expect to be really good NCAA tournament caliber teams are awful. Syracuse is awful. I actually think, they might force Boeheim out after this year. He had his dust up with a student reporter the other night that made him look really bad. Louisville is, Arkansas played them. I mean, they might be literally the worst team in Power 6 basketball this year. So I think that's what's hurt the ACC. But I think a lot of it has been covered up in past years by Duke and Carolina being really good, but they're not good this year. And yeah, it struck me that this game is this weekend, and I don't ever remember it feeling like it has less hype than it does in 2023 here in early February.
I've seen some of the things with Boeheim, and I mean, he says, I'm not bullying reporters and everything. He just doesn't take their questions seriously at all. It's different between saying no comment or ridiculing a question. And I mean, it's like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it ruins his legacy or anything like that. I mean, the guy's had a pretty singular career. It's just the career probably should have come to a close at least a couple of years ago. And I hate watching these things because it's real. I watch them whenever I see it on social media, but it's just incredibly uncomfortable. And I can't imagine. I mean, it's not a good look for the school, but he also is. I mean, he's been there longer than a lot of us have been alive. So it's just a crazy kind of a situation for. I don't know the name of the athletic director at Syracuse, but it's not a fun situation to be in.
Well, it's interesting. I was having this conversation, if I have a minute, and I didn't expect to talk Syracuse hoops here. Do I have a second, Phil? I know we're running a little bit long. Or do you want to cut it off here?
We're good.
Well, I was just going to say is that a couple things. Is that, one, I agree that the situation is weird. The team has been so bad, though. So I looked this up today to make sure that I had the stat correct. They haven't finished in the top 5 in the regular season in their conference since 2014. 2014. Now, I get it. They've made a couple tournament runs as an 11 seed, whatever, blah, 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 blah. But 2014 was the last year they finished in the top 5. Not won the conference, not finished top 3, top 5. So that's one. But two, I will say, I do think this is the year where I think people are starting to really lose their patience with him. I haven't had anybody tell me this, but I think I can speculate on it, is I think there was kind of this understanding. He had 2 sons that were in the program. Both left after last season. I think there was kind of this thing of, okay, we're going to give him until his sons graduate. He'll step away. He's not going to do this at 76, 77 with NIL, transfer portal. Once his kids leave, he'll be ready to go. Well, his kids left, and he said he doesn't have any plans on going anywhere. So to me, that's what I think is now fans are like, okay, we dealt with you through a couple down years. Then we dealt with you through the 4 years when your kid was here. Now, you want to stay even longer? You got to start producing, and I could see it getting ugly here over these final few months if they don't turn things around. Total speculation on my part, but I think that's something that could become again.
BetOnline remains your number one source for all your sports betting this season. Everything from the NFL and bowl season to esports. You'll find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at BetOnline. BetOnline features live betting, free contests, and live scores for almost any sport or game imaginable. We're the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite leagues and events. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code BELIEVE to receive your rewards. That's BLEAV. Bet Online, where the game starts.